Oh, hello. Welcome to the 2013 Hundie Challenge. Today we're going to be discussing Hunter Carlson by Joe McCarthy. Dee doo dee doo doo dee doo 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 dee doo dee doo doo dee doo dee doo doo dee doo 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 dee doo dee doo doo. Holy shit, was this a sad book. This is one of the saddest books I've read in a long time. I was impressed. I was surprised and impressed by how much the author got you to care about the characters, and they had good times in the book. There were times when you were really like smiling, but it was almost like nostalgia because you almost knew that on the heart of those good times was the fact that they were such sad, miserable people, and that the bad times were coming, and that the good times were just there to show them how bad their bad times were, if that makes any sense. It wasn't like misery porn or anything. It was just really like wistful and sad and nostalgic, kind of. I was thinking of this throughout the book. The way the characters are structured is kind of like a wheel. Okay, so the center of the wheel, like a wagon wheel, I mean, or well, I guess it could be like a tire with a hubcap. But anyway, the center of the wagon wheel is a deaf mute named John Singer. Okay, and it's interesting what they did. It's not really his story, but everything kind of circles around him. So it starts off that Singer lives with another deaf mute called Andropolis, or Antonopolis or something. And they live together, and it's funny because Singer likes to sign, so he likes to talk a lot. And he talks a lot to Antonopolis, and Antonopolis doesn't respond. He knows a few signs, but you almost get the impression that maybe he's mentally challenged or has some kind of issue that he doesn't really talk back. So for the first chapter of the book, you have Singer pouring out all of his hopes and dreams and everything into his friend, the Greek, and kind of projecting onto him. Okay? So then they get separated because the Greek's cousin actually has him institutionalized. I wasn't clear whether it was supposed to be an insane asylum or just because he was a deaf mute. It wasn't 100% clear to me why he had him institutionalized. The way it was presented in the book was there was just like damn-headedness, like his cousin was just a jerk. And Singer said, I'll take care of him, you can't take my friend away from me. So this first chapter is kind of like the whole rest of the book in reverse. Because then what happens is there's these four other characters, and each of them in their own different ways start to come to Singer, and they talk to Singer, and he never really responds. Or if he responds, he's like nodding or like writing something on a pad of paper. But they all get the impression that he's a saint, and he just loves to hear them talk, and everyone then pours their hopes and dreams and everything out onto Singer. So Singer is all things to all people because he's like a blank slate to them. And none of them know that he has this vibrant internal life. Like, all he cares about is the Greek. He's been separated from the Greek, and that's all that he cares about. That's the only person he thinks about, the only person he wants to see. That's what his whole life revolves around. And nobody ever bothers to talk to him about himself. They all assume stuff. They never ask him. And, he doesn't come out and tell it. So he's almost like just a sounding board to them, and they all love him for it. And he's a good person. He's a good, honest person. He gives, money and gifts and, all the kinds of stuff that, a good, normal, ordinary person would do. But since they've all projected so much onto him, it seems like he's like this living saint. So the other four people I don't really have to go into them in great detail. They all have their own, internal lives, and they all have their own chapters and their own lives that they're going about. But you don't want me to rehash the whole book for you. I'm more interested in kind of the structure of it. What was interesting, well, it's called The Heart is a Lonely Hunter, which is never explicitly stated. I don't know if that's a line from a poem or what. But the book is all about loneliness and about reaching out. And the problem is that nobody really reaches out properly to one another. I thought it was interesting. Yes, it was written in the 40s, but I thought it was an interesting kind of commentary in the age of Facebook on like our inability to connect with other human beings. And it's interesting because the other people are so lonely, but the only person that anyone confides in is Singer, and he doesn't care. All he cares about is the Greek. He doesn't care about their problems. He's just a sounding board to them. He might as well not. You get the impression with a lot of these people, and they all have varying degrees to which they regard Singer, but you feel like you could have just set up a doll in a room, and if they didn't know it wasn't a human being, they would have been just as happy just to talk and pour out. So it's all about kind of missed connections and not being able to connect with your fellow man. And even though all of these people are getting so much out of Singer, he doesn't really care about them. He cares enough to put on a show of politeness and empathy for them. But when inevitably, and I saw this coming the whole time. I knew when the chapter happened, I was like, oh, well, this is the chapter where the Greek's going to die and Singer's not going to be able to go on living. And of course, the Greek died and Singer shot himself promptly, because that's all he had been living for was his memories of the Greek. And he said, the other people, sometimes they distract me from my thoughts of the Greek, and that's the nicest thing I can say about them. When they're here, I can be distracted from him. And it's interesting because some of the other people, you get the strong impression that if they had connected with each other, they would be much happier. And there's even a chapter where all four of them go to visit Singer, or was it 4 or 5? I think it was 4. All four of them go to visit Singer all at once, which they've never done before. They all somehow miss each other or only catch one or two of the other. And when they all go all at once, they all sit there and none of them talk to each other. And all they want to do is use Singer as, their doll, their dummy, their Facebook, for the 40s. Or I guess it was the late 30s. And you get the impression that some of them would have been much happier if they connected with each other. There's a man who's widowed and never had kids, and then there's a kid, and you know that they were looking to connect with each other. And then there's 2 Marxists who, all they talk about is, God, I wish I could meet other Marxists. I wish somebody understood me and got me. And you know that if they just talked to each other, they'd be happy. But they never do. And then finally in the end, when they do, they're so incompetent to communicate with other people that aren't the deaf mute that they've all been talking to the whole time. They just completely clash. It was really, I was surprised at how meaningful it remains to today's problems in today's world. Really quite an interesting book, not a bad read, poetic in its prose. I would definitely recommend this. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.